Okay, can y'all hear me now? Oh my. Okay. Desktop audio. Let's quickly check that.
I'm already losing my voice and I have two of these.
Cool. All right. So it looks like we're live. Thank you so much for joining me today. Got my big cup of tea. Keeps me warm. And lubricated on this dry day. Oh fuck, one sec. Gotta take my meds. Sorry about that, folks. Sorry. How's everyone doing today? Y'all doing good? I hope so, because we're going to talk about some depressing fucking shit today. Oh boy. Oh boy. So, do I want to do the war first and get the good news out of the way, or do I want to do the depressing stuff first and get that out of the way? Let's do the war stuff. It's a good warm up. Warm up. All right, so let's go ahead and pull this up. So, as some of you may know, there is a war going on in Ukraine. So I pulled up LiveMap because it shows a relatively decent view of how the war is going, and you may notice there's a lot of red right here. There's a lot of red right here. That's because there's a war going on, surprisingly enough, and it's because Russia, this fuck, decided to invade these people, Ukraine. Now, if I'm not mistaken, can we do the timeline here? How do we do the timeline? Time. Here we go. We can go to 2022. All right, we can go to like March when this first started, right? Was it March? Let's just do June because I know what happened then, right? Definitely happened in June. So you notice, like, this is back in June of 2022. There's a lot of Ukraine that has been, like, taken over by Russia, right? We can go a little bit further back in time here. Let's do April. We can do April, right? It'll load eventually, I hope. There we go. See, there's a bunch of stuff. It's all over the place. Russia is fucking the whole shit up, as is professionally noted. This is the bad times, right? But now, let's go ahead. Just go back to today. That is a lot better for Ukraine. This lack of icons means that there isn't much going on over here, which is good. And you will notice that a lot of Ukraine has been taken back. In case you are unfamiliar with what Ukraine looks like on a global map, it's this. Can I set this to terrain? Traffic. We'll just do terrain. Whatever. Yeah, that's a little easier. Okay. So, Ukraine kind of goes like this, right? And it kind of ends over here where this little inlet is, right? And then there's Crimea down here, which is also part of Ukraine. And here, oh look, it goes. The battlefront is moved. It's not back here, kind of where it used to be, right? This huge big chunk hasn't been taken out. And in fact, up here in the north, the Ukrainians are holding their border again, which is spectacular. They've pushed the Russians back to their own border and are holding it, it looks like. Now, I believe the blue is recently retaken and red is occupied. So you can see here there's some recently retaken land, mostly going along the highways because that's where the logistics goes. And then you've got down here where there is still a lot of land to take, of course. But this is in red. Why is this in red? I don't honestly know why this is in red. Okay, that's fine. Is this because this is like super bad times? What's going on over here? Let's Russian shelling. So all of these are Russian shelling, which is what the Russians do. They throw explosive ammunition this direction, trying to kill enough civilians to make people sad. Sirens, yep, that's probably due to the fucking immediate shelling that took place, yep. But all in all, it looks like the war in Ukraine is going well for the Ukrainians. In fact, recently, as in the last week ago, Biden has announced that he's going to be sending Abrams tanks over to Ukraine, which is cool. Glad we're finally sending tanks over. If only our tanks weren't powered by jet fuel and the most finicky things on the planet, but they shoot far and hit hard, which is important. In addition, Ukraine tanks from NATO. We're getting main battle tanks across the line. We've got Leopard 2, Challenger 2, and M1s all going to Ukraine as of last week. United States, Britain, and Germany have agreed to supply Ukraine, my apologies, slip of the tongue, with main battle tanks to aid to its resistance to Russia's invasion. Which is important because Ukraine has been asking for tanks for a pretty long time. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Oh, well, there was a... Okay, I can't find it right off the bat, so I'm not going to do it. Anyways, the point is, Ukraine is getting continued aid from Western nations, which is important, and NATO nations, which is important, because we need to defend. Russia's the aggressor. Ukraine's the defender. Ukraine is democratic, primarily. Russia is very much not. Push Russia back. We don't allow authoritarians in this world. That's all I've got to say about that. And if you feel like getting into a fight with me, come on the stream and debate me, bitch. Ooh, look, there's traffic over here. We get a little bit of data from Voronezh, however you say that. Oh, we're going to jump ahead a little bit. Okay. Now, as you may remember, last year, Florida, under the rule of Governor DeSantis, put out the Stop Woke Act, which is a delightfully anachronistic, or a delightful title. I hate it so much. In recent years, we're just going to go ahead and read this real quick. So, what does the Stop Woke Act actually do? Which, by the way, Stop Woke means Stop Wrong to Our Kids and Employees Act. Ugh. It was also known as the Individual Freedom Act. Of course it was, because it removes individual freedoms. The law prohibits teaching certain concepts related to race. The prohibited teachings were that 1. Members of one race, color, national origin, or sex, or are morally superior to members of another race. color, national origin, or sex. As far as I'm aware, literally no one was teaching anything kind of this, except that, like, maybe some white nationalists in the hills. Florida doesn't have any hills. Swamps. 2. A person by virtue of his or her race, color, national origin, or sex is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. Again, I don't think anybody was actually teaching this because of the word person there. There is systems that are inherently sexist, racist, etc., or oppressive, but nobody was actually teaching anything that relates to people, individuals being of that, without, I don't know, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. A person's moral character or status as either privileged or oppressed is necessarily determined by his or her race, color, national origin, or sex. I imagine they're going to be saying that a lot, just as a heads up, that particular grouping of phrases. Again, don't think anyone's teaching this except the white nationalists. Members of one race, color, national origin, or sex cannot and should not attempt to treat others without respect to race. This one is their attempt at getting at intersectionality and their attempt to stop you from using an intersectional analysis, which I think pretty much shows their inability to understand those concepts at all. So let's say somebody is white, Australian, and girl. They should not attempt to treat others without respect to. Well, hold on. They should not attempt to treat others without respect to. So, no respect because of their race, color, national origin, or sex. The way they worded that, I think, is weird. I think there should probably be another respect in there. Treat others without respect, semicolon maybe, with respect to. But anyways, I'm just getting off in the weeds here. Basically, like that white tanned Australian girl, treating someone without respect because of any of their race, color, national origin, or sex. I don't know. Is this them doing intersectionality wrong? Or am I just being silly? It's probably both. The person, by virtue of his or her race, color, national origin, or sex, bears responsibility for or should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment. Again, nobody is asking about this, for fuck's sake. Even, the only people I can think of who are doing this are, white supremacists or, black Islamicists or maybe Nation of Islam types, maybe. The exclusionary reactionists. Or exclusionist reactionaries. Sorry, sometimes I say things backwards quite a lot, and today looks like it's going to be one of those days. 5. A person, by virtue of his race or her race, color, national origin, or sex, bears responsibility for, or should be discriminated against, or receive adverse treatment because of actions committed in the past by other members of the same race. Okay, so this is the idea of, white guilt, right? That you cannot teach white guilt. White guilt is kind of on the person who feels it, right? I don't feel guilt for anything that happened in the past of America because I wasn't there for it. I don't have guilt surrounding what past Americans and British people or Northern Europeans or anything like that have done because I didn't do it. Just hit my fucking microphone. Because I didn't do it. So it's just, this kind of feels this kind of feels a bit like they're being the ones putting something out there. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? 6. A person, by virtue of his or her race, color, national origin, or sex, should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment to achieve diversity, equity, or inclusion. So I think what they're talking about in this particular one is they're trying to hint at like affirmative action, right? Like the idea that if you have two exact same candidates for a position, and one of them has been a subject of systemic inequality, they get the preference versus the person who has not. I don't have a take on it. Seems fine to me. A person, by virtue of his or the inclusion of those people, like the idea that you take a black person over a white person if they're all perfectly identical, I don't care, because in practice that doesn't happen. Never does. There's no such thing as two exactly the same people, and the science and studies have been done to show that there is already a very heavily biased what am I thinking of? Sorry, my brain has been all over the place the last couple of days, weeks actually. That's why I haven't been streaming, fun fact. Because I can't fucking get my thoughts in order. Scientific studies have shown that there are biases against people with female or ethnic sounding names in the hiring process, even if they utilize the exact same resumes. Women and people of color get discriminated against more likely than cis white sounding guys do when it comes to resumes in a blind without images type of thing. And we could pull those up and go over them, but I don't feel like it. You guys can go do that. You can do whatever you want. Okay, 7. A person, by virtue of his race, his or her race, color, sex, national origin, bears personal responsibility and must feel guilt, anguish. Again, this is bullshit. Nobody was doing this. It's just fucking outlawing the idea of white guilt. Such virtues as merit, excellence, hard work, fairness, neutrality, objectiveness, and racial colorblindness are racist or sexist, or were created by something blah 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 blah. Okay, so the law prohibits teaching certain concepts. All of what we have just said were outlawed by this act, which means that you can't teach the concept of white guilt. You can't teach the concept that meritocracy is not a thing. Like, you have to teach that meritocracy is a thing without any further analysis of it. Okay. So then we'll go down. The law was challenged by both students and professors. A federal judge temporarily blocked the law. Let's see. State cannot restrict viewpoints on curriculum. Students have a right to receive information. Rejected the comparison to discrimination laws. Academic freedoms. Florida attempting to create Ministry of Truth. Well, all of that is true. Okay, this article was published in November, so this doesn't have any of the updated stuff. So this is an older article. Okay. Now that we have understood what the Stop Woke Act does, which is basically make it so you can't teach anything at all, basically. This is a pamphlet delivered by DeSantis's goons. Freedom from indoctrination. Again, this is Florida education will include history of the Holocaust and African Americans, but it will not include anything that has CRT principles, which is, of course, critical race theory, which is like a huge bedrock of theory and of historical understanding that has been going on for decades now. When did CRT first? When was critical theory? Critical theory origins. Critical theory. (1937). Max Horkheimer. Bet that name is going to come up later. Just saying. But yeah, like, critical theory originated in the early 1900s from, like, Marx and, and then in, like, postmodernism. Anyway, we have done critical theory in the past on this channel. Go look up a bunch of the learning leftism videos that I did last year. They will give you a better idea of what to look at when we're talking about critical theory and that sort of thing. So you can study Hispanic and women's contributions to the U.S., civics, character, and mental health education, conservation of natural resources, and includes many new required components of African American history education. We'll see about that. It deems CRT training to be unlawful employment practices. Okay. Florida's K through 20 students. Okay. What the hell is K through 20? I honestly don't know. I thought it was K through 12. Okay, so it includes the K-20 Education Network is the nation's first high-speed, high-capacity, high-reliability network interlinking colleges, universities, and K-12 districts and libraries statewide and providing video and data. Okay, so it means, like, kindergarten through college, because we're trying to become better learned as a society, it seems like. So, okay. So K through 20 means that even college students aren't able to learn this stuff, apparently. Apparently, even after you're 18, the idea of this knowledge is too terrifying and powerful. So what we've got basically going on here is DeSantis's government has considered modern theory and the concepts regarding how we look at the world and understand our place in it as the yellow sign. And in order to keep Carcosa from infesting our world, he must ban everything. Well, holy shit, he got his wish. This is DeSantis. He looks like a sweaty potato. Florida school district begins cataloging books to comply with DeSantis's backed law. Efforts are underway in Florida counties to comply with the law championed by Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, who is also the presidential frontrunner for the Republican Party. I will remind you. Manatee County School District. Aw, what a cute name for a school district. Manatee County. I wonder if it is a vegetarian county. Teachers are experiencing fear and confusion as the school district works to implement House Bill 1476, otherwise known as the Stop Woke Act, I believe. Anyways. A document provided by the district that lays out new statutory changes to HB 1467 indicates violations could be considered a third-degree felony. What does a third-degree felony mean, you might add? According to Florida statutes, the maximum sentence for a third-degree felony conviction is 5 years in prison. The judge can also give you a $5,000 fine and put you on probation for 5 years. This is true even if you are facing a first offense third-degree felony. While it is technically the least serious type of felony in Florida, felons... What are felons unallowed to do, one might ask? What can a felon not do? What can a felon not do? A felon loses certain civil rights, such as the right to vote, the right to serve on a jury, hold public office, and restricts the issuance and renewal of some professional licenses, such as real estate and insurance. I bet you that also means teaching. So, if you are caught violating Sweaty Potato Man's new Ministry of Truth law, he will lay out that you are a third-degree felon and you lose the ability to do anything. It is unconscionable to me that teachers would be put in a position that their good deed of providing a classroom library for their students in order to instill the love of reading could possibly result in a felony, Barber told CNN. Pat Barber here is a specialist trained by the Florida's Department of Education. So even within Florida's own state system, there is friction. We find ourselves, I feel, facing down an important moment in history. But we'll get there. We will get there. The book's provision, which took effect in July after being signed by DeSantis last year, requires library media... when was this posted? January. Okay. July. Blah, blah, blah. January. Requires media resources to be approved by a school district employee who holds a valid educational media specialist certificate. I bet you that is not a common certificate, according to a June memo, according to Florida's Department of Education, which was putting out guidance memos as recently as December, last month, maybe 2 months ago almost. Selection of library materials, including classroom libraries, must be free of pornography and prohibited material under the law, suited to student needs and their ability to comprehend the material presented, and appropriate for the grade level of the age group. Basically, nebulous and vague, completely without any single factor or determination that could be reliably understood by someone trying to apply this. This is overly vague and will lead to the banning of basically anything that the person who is looking at this thinks about. Consider that this is vague on purpose. Maybe, just maybe, they are trying to be overly vague because they want to ban anything that they don't like. You know that pen we keep taking out and putting stuff in? It's getting pretty hard to hold up all this fucking string, but we're getting there. A teacher, or any adult, faces a felony if they knowingly contribute or distribute egregious material, such as images which depict sexual conduct, sexual battery, bestiality, or sadomasochistic abuse. And who could be against that? Florida Education Commissioner Manny Diaz Jr. tweeted Wednesday in defense of the measure. Hold on, I need to tweet something. Okay. Sorry, had to get that out of my system. The contentious law marks one of several efforts backed by DeSantis to legislate what can be taught in Florida schools, a public stance that has boosted his national prominence as he said he would be weighing a potential 2024 presidential bid. He is going to run. He did last time, right? Just this week, Governor commented for the first time on the state's rejection of new proposed AP course on African American Studies, imposing what he called a political agenda. Now, in case you were unaware, there was an African American Studies course. Is this actually going to talk about the course? No. We're just going to keep going in circles about CNN links. Okay. The AP course was not limited to American history regarding African Americans or African American history. This is something that a lot of right-wingers have been using to twist the fact pattern to fit their needs a little bit better. The AP African American Studies course was broad, and it was an umbrella term to talk about a lot of African American issues throughout history, including political, historical, and social contexts, because it was an AP course on damn near college level. Of course it's going to be broad, because once we get out of elementary school, we're expected to think for ourselves past the ability to choose pudding or Jell-O. So, anyways, we don't need to get into that. I'll just get mad. We don't need to get super mad here. We're just talking about the fascist uprising. It's okay. We'll be fine. We will not be fine. The world is doomed. CNN has reached out to DeSantis' office for comment. Mary Masferer with the Florida Association for Media and Education asked school board members during a Tuesday meeting to give students access to books in classroom on materials being cataloged and vetted, open up the classroom libraries while the process can be done. Basically, I think the rest of this just goes into more detail. Basically, the school board is saying that they're protecting the teachers, not banning books. However, we're getting to that. Oh, look! They've banned books. Let's listen to what this local News 4 Jax has to say. Jacksonville, Florida.
Empty bookshelves at a local middle school. Parents tell News4Jax that teachers and librarians at their kids' schools were told to pack up the books for review.
Also, one quick moment. I did library work in high school. I was a librarian's assistant for like 2 years. Moving books is no small feat. It is a pain in the ass. Okay? You do not have enough stuff to move large volumes of books. We reorganized our library once, and it took us 2 weeks of constant work for the 1 hour a day that I had to move a shelf left, because we had to move everything in our library over.
So it actually blew my mind that we were living in a world where we were removing books from classrooms.
This week, schools statewide have been complying with state law requiring the approval of books in classroom libraries. News4Jax reporter Marilyn Parker joining us live from the Duval County School Board headquarters. Marilyn, is that video part of schools complying with the state law?
Yes, and News4Jax viewers have been reaching out to us about it all week. DCPS says that they are conducting formal reviews of classroom libraries. They made the announcement on Monday, but it came as a shock to lots of parents and students. They want to know when these books will be returned or replaced. During the middle of Literacy Week at Mandarin Middle School, all the books in the library were gone.
Oh, if that isn't a perfect encapsulation of our society this day. We're currently celebrating Literacy Week. How would you like to be literate today? I'd love to read a book. That'd be nice.
How do we live in a world where books are being banned from the classroom?
Brian Covey says his kids attend Greenland Pines, and the books there were also taken this week.
They said that before school, all the teachers had to pack up their stuff. The librarian apparently tearfully announced that she no longer had a resource class to do, and she had to review all the books in the school.
A teacher in Manatee County this week covered up the books in his classroom and put up a sign that reads, "Closed by
Dugong, Dugong, it's a county at home." Okay,
order of the governor. Florida state law says teachers must cross-reference their libraries with a list of pre-approved books. A trained media specialist will vet any books that are not on the list. The law requires books to be free from pornography, instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity in kindergarten through 3rd grade, and discrimination in a way that an individual, by virtue of his or her race, color, sex, or national origin, is inherently racist or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously.
I don't know a single teacher who would come across an inappropriate book in their classroom and wouldn't remove it.
Educators who violate this law could face a 3rd-degree felony. Duval County Schools announced Monday they're taking further steps to comply with state laws. Covey says he can't blame the school district, but thinks it's punishing students.
It's hurting their education. I have a feeling it's a lot to do with the same as African American studies and in trying to control what kids can and cannot learn.
DCPS says,
which in my opinion should be up to the students. They should be able to learn about whatever they find interesting.
the district will soon provide school staff with more specific guidance on the review process.
So, as we have just seen demonstrated delightfully, you cannot have books that depict pornography. As I believe we mentioned earlier, it was, where was it? Was it this? Anyways, we saw the thing that it was like you can't have masochistic or bestiality or anything like that. Well, what about nope, not what I wanted. Is it this one? Nope, not that one. It was 2320. Sorry, I was off by a verse. She lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like that of donkeys, and whose emissions was like that of horses. So I ask you, dear viewer, does this mean that you can no longer have the Bible in Florida schools? Because, I mean, sure seems to me like there's some fucking bestiality and some pornography going on in that. And this is just the one I remember. There are dozens of things in that. So I will remind everybody. Again, we're talking about a law that is overly vague, has been applied to literally everything, and is currently removed the ability for students to even read because they can't have a book in school. What constitutes a book, I wonder? Does this pamphlet remind you of anything? Well, it did to me. As you might have noticed this in the top. That's right, we're talking about Nazi book burnings. Because this, oh boy, does it remind me of some things. And we're coming up on the 90th anniversary of the Nazi book burnings in Berlin. So, let's do some history learning, shall we? Something DeSantis doesn't want you to do. If you're in Florida, you can't listen to this. Okay. In a 19th century precedent, which means the 1800s, the May 1933 book burning in Nazi Germany had a precedent in the 19th century Germany. In 1817, weird how it works in about 100-year cycles. Strange. German student associations chose the 300th anniversary of Lucer's 95 Theses, and if you're not familiar with that, it's where Martin Luther, not the black guy, the German guy, walked up and nailed a bunch of pamphlets to a church wall and created an entire break in Catholicism and what is now called Protestantism. To hold a festival at Wartburg Castle in Thuringia, where Luther had sought sanctuary after his excommunication from the Catholic Church. The students demonstrating for a unified country, Germany, was then a patchwork of states, burned anti-national and reactionary texts and literature in which the students viewed as un-German. Sounds familiar, huh? Synchronizing culture with Nazi ideology. Oh, and in case you didn't pick up on it, we are reading about book burning from the Holocaust Encyclopedia from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. Imagine a pretty good source. 1 second. In 1993, no. Oh boy. In 1933, Nazi German authorities aimed to synchronize professional and cultural organizations with Nazi ideology and policy. Joseph Goebbels, Nazi Minister for Popular Enlightenment and Propaganda. Whew, that's a title. Oh boy, is that a title. How long before we see that in fucking... What was the thing they called it in Florida? It's like Department of Education Media Analysis or something like that. Media training. Anyway, very similar, long, undifferentiatable titles. Began an effort to bring German arts and culture in line with Nazi goals. How would they bring in all of them together? Well, they burned them. They destroyed them. They labeled them degenerate. In an effort to synchronize the literary community, Goebbels had a strong ally in the Students' Association for the Nazi Party. German university students were the vanguard of early Nazi movement in the late 1920s and filled the ranks with their ultranationalism and anti-Semitism. On April 6th, the Nazi German Student Association's main office for press and propaganda proclaimed a nationwide action against the un-German spirit to climax in a literary purge or cleansing by fire. Local chapters were to supply the press with releases and commissioned articles, offer blacklist of un-German authors. On April 8th, the Students' Association also drafted 12 theses. Today, these would be known as tweets. A deliberate evocation of Martin Luther's 95 Theses. Declaration which described the fundamentals of pure national language and culture. Does that sound familiar? Placards publicized these theses, which attacked Jewish intellectualism and asserted the need to purify the German language and literature, and demanded that universities be the centers of German nationalism. The students described the action as a response to a worldwide Jewish smear campaign against Germany and an affirmation of traditional German values. 1 second here. I am going to take this, I'm going to copy it, we're going to put it over here in something you can't see real quick, and I'm going to attempt to create a modern understanding of what we're looking at. Let's see if I can add a new source here real quick. Screen capture. Notepad, add source. There we go. Now you guys can see what I'm working on. So in this case, we will say tweets publicized these, which attacked woke intellectualism, asserted the need to purify the language and literature, and demanded that universities be the center of American thought and nationalism. The students described the action as a response to a worldwide wokeness smear campaign against American and an affirmation of traditional American values. Huh! Weird how easy that was to do, right? So, with almost no trouble at all, I changed the history of placards publicized these, or the theses, which attacked Jewish intellectualism, asserted the need to purify the German language and literature, and demanded that universities be centers of German nationalism. The students described an action as a response to a worldwide Jewish smear campaign against Germany and an affirmation of traditional German values. And with no effort at all, I made the tweets publicly publicized the theses which attacked woke intellectualism and asserted the need to purify the United States language and literature, and demanded that universities be centers of American thought and nationalism. The students described the action as a response to worldwide wokeness smear campaign against American and an affirmation of traditional German values. I should put that as America, not American. Pardon me. But with almost no effort at all, I have taken and modernized a 100-year-old thought and history, updated it to current modern standards, more or less, and made it as coherent and as if you would hear this coming out of the words and voices of the right wing today. So, as we go over this, I want you to just keep in mind how close we are to this being our history, not just Germany's. This could be our future, and it looks like we're heading towards it. In a symbolic act of ominous significance, on May 10th, 1933, university students burned upwards of 25,000 volumes of, quote, un-German books, presaging an era of state censorship and control of culture. An era of state censorship and control of culture. Ooh, they have a video. Let's watch some books being burnt.
In anderen Universitätsstädten Deutschlands wurden undeutsche und unsittliche Bücher von den Studenten eingesammelt und öffentlich verbrannt. Der Scheiterhaufen auf dem Opernplatz in Berlin.
So I don't speak much German, right? I speak like 5 words in German. But I think what I heard from him is that he is saying we are removing the bad from Germany and allowing the the pure German stuff to be seen, or something like that. Oh, look, it's Goebbels. It's Goebbels. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Gobble down that propaganda he wants you to eat. I can't watch any more of that. At the meeting places, students threw pillaged and unwanted books into bonfires with great ceremony, a band playing so-called fire oaths. In Berlin, some 40,000 persons gathered to the Opernplatz to hear Joseph Goebbels deliver a fiery address, quote, "No to decadence and moral corruption." Where have we heard that one before? And a yes to decency and morality in family and state. Sorry, what was that? Why did I bring up Stephen Crowder? I don't know. Weird. Which authors and works were targeted? Oh boy. Among authors whose books student leaders burned that night were well-known socialists, such as Bertolt Brecht, August Bebel, the founder of the concept of communism, Karl Marx, critical bourgeoisie writers like the Austrian playwright Arthur Schnitzel, and corrupting foreign influences, among them American author Ernest Hemingway. Which is weird, man. Hemingway that's a weird one to ban. He's kind of like on your side, right? The fires also consumed several writings of 1929 Nobel Prize winning German author Thomas Mann, whose support of the Weimar Republic and critique of fascism raised Nazi ire. Also burned were books of international best-selling author Erich Mara Remarque, Nazi ideologues, vilified remarks. Remarque? Unflinching description of war, All Quiet on the Western Front. Apparently there was a movie came out recently. I still need to watch it. As a literary betrayal of the soldiers of the World War. Works by early German literary critics of the Nazi regime were also burned, such as those of Erich Krasner, Heinrich Mann, and Ernest Glacier. Was this Horkheimer? Okay, sorry. Other writers included on the blacklist were American authors Jack London, Theodore Dressler, and Helen Keller, whose belief in social justice encouraged her to champion the disabled, pacifism, and improving conditions for industrial workers and women's voting rights. Well, we can't have that, now can we? Jewish authors numbered among the writers whose works were burned that day. Among them, some of the most famous contemporary writers of the day, such as Franz Werfel, Max Brod, and Stefan Zweig. So, why do totalitarian regimes often target culture? Well, because culture fights them. In this short film, a Holocaust survivor and Iranian author... Okay, I don't want to watch this right now. We may come back to it. So we're going to go to the Nazi book burnings on Wikipedia, right? And we're going to kind of go through this in a little bit of detail, and then we're going to see how it applies to the Stop Woke Act, right? So we had a bit of this history. The first large burning came on the 6th of May, 4 days before the big one, right? A German student union made an organized attack on Magnus Hirschfeld's Institute for Sexual Research, which, and this is its own whole thing, but it got burned because of intersexuality, homosexuality, and transgender topics. It is assumed that Dora Reicher was the first transgender woman known to have undergone sex reassignment surgery by doctors at the institute that Nazis attacked and burned, was killed during this attack. That's right. Possibly the first transgender woman to ever have undergone sex reassignment surgery was killed by the Nazis while they tried to burn books about the existence of transgender people. So when they, being the right-wing authoritarians, block the ability to talk about sex, gender, and other critical theories. We've gone over critical theory. They burn the books and fucking kill people who they find un-German or un-American or otherwise known as other. And no, my crossing of my arms to do this was not unintentional or for theatrical effect. It was to indicate that everything outside of me is the other that they so desperately want to fight against. On the 10th of May, 1933, students burned un-German books in the square at the State Opera, the Bibelplatz, as we talked about earlier. But they didn't stop there. No, they did not. Because had the Nazis stopped at burning books, history would be very different and probably not include a couple of extraordinarily impressive bombs that got dropped. Cultural genocide in occupied territories. Well, let's first off describe what we mean by cultural genocide. Is a concept which was proposed by lawyer Raphael Lemkin in 1944 as a component of genocide, which is, of course, the killing of an ethnic, national, racial, or religious group, or cultural group, a list of cultural genocides. We'll get to that in a second. Basically, a genocide is whenever you kill a bunch of people for some reason. Cultural genocide is when you kill a culture, which is what the Nazis did when they burned a bunch of books, which again killed people because they didn't like the information they were given through books. They burn books. They kill people because they don't like what they're being taught. Here is a list of the persecuted authors. I'm not going through all of them. Helen Keller published an open letter to German students for all the work, all the good that did. Oh, Heinrich Heine, a German poet, literary critic, well above his time apparently. 1823, where they burn books, they will ultimately also burn people. His books were also burned. Wow, that was fucking prescient of him. 1 year after the mass book burnings, the German Freedom Library, founded by Alfred Kantorowicz, I'm bad at names, was opened to assemble copies of the books that had been destroyed because the shift in political power and the blatant control and censorship demonstrated by the Nazi Party. 1933 saw a mass exodus of German writers. They went into exile in America, England, and France. On the 10th of May, those writers in exile came together in France and established the library. I bet you that library was burned when they took over France. A similar library, modeled after the one in Paris, was opened at the Brooklyn Jewish Center in Brooklyn, New York, on the 15th of November later that same year. There were speeches dedicated to Einstein, Liebman, other folk, I assume. Allied censorship during denazification. In 1946, the Allied occupation authorities drew up a list of over 30,000 titles ranging from school books to poetry, including works of Vosch Clausewitz. Okay, so, we did book burning too, but at least, it's kind of in a denazification way. It's taking away the power of the authoritarians, which is something I'm whole for. Round them up, lock them up. If they have been advocating for anti-democratic stuff, cite them. If they've done anti-democratic stuff, arrest them. If they say, tried to cause an insurrection by storming the Capitol and upsetting the peaceful transition of power, maybe they should be charged as terrorists and domestic terrorists and insurrectionists and traitors, but, just my thought. Okay, so I think we've gotten kind of over what I wanted to talk about when it comes to Florida's actions. So what can we do? Great question. Let us look at Florida's elections for 2022. So for governor, DeSantis won by 20%, give or take. That's a fifth of voters. That's rough. That is a really hard hurdle to get over. It is. It's no way to look at that easily. That is hard to get over. It's hard to get over 60% of people voting for an open fascist. That is hard. And very similarly for the Senate. But that's high level, right? We have 8 Democrats, 20 GOP in the House, and 3 ballot measures were decided. These ballot measures were abolish the Florida Constitution Review Commission. They kept the commission. Nope, they abolished the commission. Amendment 3 allows state lawmakers to increase property tax exemptions for public workers. Allow the expanded tax benefits. Oh boy, I'm sure that's going to go well. Okay, so they kept the commission and they kept the current laws and exemption because they had to hit 60% to go into effect. So it's like a supermajority. Okay. And then Constitutional Amendment 1 allows state lawmakers to expand property tax exemptions for flood-resistant improvements. So what do these 3 ballot measures mean real quick? Let's just take a look at them. A lot of people voted to abolish a group of people who review the Florida Constitution. I assume that's a good thing. Like, I assume being able to review what the Constitution says and give a legal opinion on it is probably a good thing, which is probably what that commission does. Amendment 3 allows state lawmakers to increase property tax exemptions for public workers. I mean, I don't like property being a commodity anyway, so I don't really have any work on this, but I imagine that I'd have been okay. I have to read it. It's Constitutional Amendment 1. Allow state lawmakers to expand property tax exemptions for flood-resistant improvements. Giving tax breaks to people who can build flood resistance. So it's a tax break for rich people who can afford to be better at not taking damage from floods and get less money taken from them because they weren't flooded. So you're punishing people who get flooded. Cool. Okay, let's go back to this. Again, governor and senate, that's 60%. That's hard, but what we can do about that is, if I have anybody listening in Florida, Progressive Victory 2023, I think they're still doing stuff. Yeah, Progressive Victory is still doing things. So if you want to make a difference in your community, talk to these guys, see how you can get involved in helping people. Every dot is a person or a group of or a community or something helping to do stuff. Seems to be a lot of fucking Florida people. So if you live in Florida and want to help, by God, there's people out there to help you. So what can we do? Individually, help out with bigger people to do more and better things. That's it. We need to get out there and we need to push as hard as we can, because someone's got to, right? All right. Now we've caught up on what they want to do. Let's calm down by watching something stupid. Let's see if Pine Creek's put out anything else recently that I care to watch. What? Okay, that's 44 seconds. We gotta watch this.
What I deserve is not what any of us deserve. And so they're literally trying to destroy us. They're trying to destroy me. They're trying to destroy the movement. And I just need us to be stronger. And so they're literally trying to destroy us.
Okay, so this is him making fun of a balance sheet for an organization. Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy, Pine Creek, you never stop to make it stupid, don't you? BLM balance sheet. From their thing. Oh, that's 2021. Is that what he's talking about? Black Lives Matter Global. Okay, so that's specifically the global version of them. Okay. Global Network Foundation. Yeah, okay. Transparency Center, probably good. Independent External Audit. That's okay, so I literally found the same thing. Okay, cool. I didn't find anything wrong with the financial analysis part of the documentary, except I couldn't confirm that the mansion in California was flipped for a $3 million profit. The huge investment in the stock market, real estate, and nepotism were the key takeaways. Not sure how this helps Black lives in America. And $8 million went out of country to Canada. But of course, if you cry enough, there will always be suckers to give more money. Oh, boy. Okay. So, independent auditors report. What does it actually say? We have audited the accompanying consolidated financial statements of Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. Cash flows of the year that ended and related notes consolidated. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these consolidated financial statements in accordance with auditor's responsibility. Okay, opinion. In our opinion, the consolidated financial statements referred to present fairly in all material respects to the financial position of its affiliates as of June 30th, 2021, and the changes of their net assets and cash flow for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principle generally accepted. So they're fine. The guy found out that they're fine. Current assets, $5 million. Okay. Current liabilities. Oh, here we go. So their current cash assets and liabilities are the same. which would make sense because they're a non-profit, so they don't make money. Revenue and support, online store, burn 2.7. Foundation grants, looks like they got some money. Okay. Expenses, they got some support from foundations, 70 million. That's not that much. And we're talking, okay, to put that into perspective, that's less than what, $1.1 million per state. Like, we're not even talking globally, just in America. Let's say they got $70 million for their grants, right? That's like 1.1 million-ish, not even, like a state. There's 50 states, for fuck's sake, not including territories and out-of-country stuff that they're working on, international stuff. Like, come on. That's so little money in the grand scheme. If you talk about, like, operating a single office in every state in the union, right? What's that? Fucking, what's $1 million? If you pay people, like, a good salary of, like, $65,000 a year, maybe $70,000 a year, that's, like, what, 100 people before you hit $1 million? Fuck off. Yeah, that, I don't really care. They said it was fine. It's fine. You're an asshole. Are you even talking in this one, Pine Creek? Oh god, he really he dragged out fucking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait a second, what happened to all of his other videos? He had more videos than this, didn't he, last time I checked? Are you Pine Creek? Are you deleting videos that you don't like again? Are you scrubbing your channel? Oh, you cheeky little fuckwaffle. We went over this one. Pretty sure we went over this. Don't need to talk about that. This is all clickbait. So this is all clickbait. Yeah, why the fuck are you doing, dude? That was a dumb one. We watched that one too, I think. At least a little bit. Man, this guy streams compressed amount of stuff, but like, I don't know. It wasn't fucking suspended by YouTube. You got copyright infringed for watching Vice, you douchebag. So now he's watching, he's live. He's got 116 people watching him. Beauty sells, sex and academics, electric cars, transgender views. Okay, let's take a quick look.
What was that? Say that again?
The Stephanie person said she does not distinguish between sex and gender.
Yeah, I heard that. I'm like, oh, no. You see,
Yeah.
And at that moment, I was there. I would have had to, do I challenge that? Because I think there's a distinction.
Well,
and I'm hesitant to, because I don't want, because it's a already complicated
I don't know,
social
who
dynamic.
the fuck is this guy?
Trans person that I don't want to, whose feelings I don't want to hurt, right? So.
Well, you set yourself up for huge problems with that, because I in that live stream I was debating, do I ask this question, and I guess I can ask it now, is do you think someone should be content with who they are, really who they are? Now, should someone be content with who they really are?
What do you mean by that?
And it's a trap question, but most homosexuals say, yeah, if you're really gay, you should be content with who you are. Deeply who you are, holistically who you are. But once you say that gender and sex are the same thing,
Which they're not.
and you answer yes, you should be who you are, then why did you transition?
Who the fuck
I
are they?
agree.
Okay, whatever. This is the same level of dumb fuckery that this guy always peddles. Why did I... Christ. How is he bigger than I am? So mad about that. Okay, do we want to look at any... I don't really want to look at Steven Crowder. He's a fucking twat. Discourse! Modern discourse! What's good? Hold on, let me... Let's go to Twitter. What's trending under grooming? Oh boy, this is going to be great. Okay, so... When our girls are old enough, we start training them... Yeah, this is actually grooming. Like, forcing gender roles. Oh, for fuck's sake. I've seen dogs do this. Holy shit. What the fuck is going on? I don't care. At least they're practicing trigger discipline? Hassan is trending. What's going on with Hassan? Can we get some Hassan? Oh god, what's Hassan doing? Do you think he's gonna be like hard on me? Do you think Hassan's gonna like get after me if I watch this?
You watch the video, you go, oh, how cute and how nice. I watch the video and I'm filled with rage.
What's wrong with you?
That we shut off access to a 10-minute procedure because we paywalled it and decided that like some people just simply can't get it. It is so insanely frustrating that it's up to like one YouTube guy to like decide to make content out of it that like.
So I assume this is about Mr. Beast giving people paying for people's eye surgery that apparently is a 10-minute procedure to make them not blind. So that's, yeah, I mean, good for him. It's shit that we do this in a fucking... It's shit that we keep that out.
Like, the people who are too poor can't just fucking see. That's insane. Anyway, sorry. It's just like a deeply, deeply frustrating concept.
No shit!
You pay for my surgery?
Yeah.
Okay, and then it just goes back to Mr. Beast. I don't care. See, cool that Mr. Beast did that. I'm not exactly... if everybody in the video consented to being in the video and, like, whatever, it's fine. I don't care. It's just the process of, like, capitalism going through its shit, right? They should take away his license. Freeze it, then air fry at 450, drain the fat, add a little water and plenty of salt into the pot for au jus. Crispy on the outside and no more than medium. Yeah, okay. They should take away his license. I agree with Hassan here. Yeah, hardcore agree. Okay. Okay. What the fuck? Okay, so it looks like Hassan is just being up because fucking he's mad that we live in capitalism. Okay, cool. I fully agree. Okay, let's go back to him. Let's see what he's saying now.
Rosemary, what do you have to say?
Was he taking calls? Is this what's going on?
If I had not been in work, I would have called in. I believe you. You're tired? I had 4 hours of sleep because of yesterday, and got me to talk about the issue again.
What are we talking about?
I'm coming off a really bad cold, and I'm how many years older than you? I have the right to be tired. I have the right.
Do you now?
Give me that right. Don't talk to me about responsibility. I want my rights. Oh yeah, you can dislike it too. Yeah, what am I saying? Feel free to dislike.
Okay, hold on. We'll just mute this until I see someone else coming on. And in case any of you are wondering why I don't, like, click that whereby link and jump down his throat, I'll be honest. I don't have the spoons for it today. I barely have the spoons and, like, energy to stream today. I do not have the mental capacity to jump onto a live stream with the drop of a hat and, like, fight a guy for who knows what on who knows whatever he's talking to his chat about. It's not something I'm interested in doing right now, guys. Gotta be honest. I don't have another... It's my webcam. Can I duplicate this? 1 second. Here, let me put that up until he's fucking done being an idiot. Can I duplicate this? Okay, if I hit that webcam, add source, then I drop this one down. Oh my god, there's two of me. Okay, and then I can turn background to hidden. Nope. I need that one to be above the web page. Webcam needs to be above the web page. There we go. And then I can turn that on. Oh my god. It's Giant Jake! So. Now I have... Oh, he went offline! No! I was going to use you for content! He used me. He used me for content, guys. You know what it's time for then. Can I not add any... Can I turn that off? No. Okay, I can't do anything. Can I do this? It's a shame I can't do anything with my camera. I was going to turn it to, like, black and white and be sad. But I can't. Oh, look. Can't see this real quick. 1 sec. Look. There I am. I'm on my own front page. It's good shit. Why am I doing that? I'm fucking an idiot. Let's see. Who is a good person? Oh, has the Bad Faith podcast dropped? Both sides of the Vosh debate? It has. Do I think I could get away with watching the Bad Faith podcast without getting copyrighted? Could probably get a couple minutes in, don't you think? Could probably get a couple minutes out of it, right? I won't get fucking DMCA'd for that, will I? Since it's 20 minutes long.
Jimmy is obsessed over FTV. I couldn't remember my own name with the clarity and precision that he has brought up FTV.
But let's talk about why.
No, we had such a good conversation. We were almost there.
Gosh, this is what's so important.
But I'm telling you, that I initially did not care that much about this. My issue has been the way it's been used to cynically.
That's a little unfair, Vouch, because I heard you.
Are you going to do an intro, or is you just jump on this end?
I've heard you criticize the strategy as not effective, not smart strategy, in ways that are completely undermined by what we saw happen with the Conservatives 2 weeks ago.
Well, just to be clear to everyone,
Okay, so they are just jumping in, it looks like. Well, let's pick up some context, shall we?
Everyone remembers, force the vote isn't like a broader ideology or something. It's a strategy, not a very good one at that, but even leaving that aside, that literally only could have been a thing 2 years ago. They were wrong to begin with, or at the very least, they were unjustified in a lot of their statements. The specific Force the Vote movement was one of the most blatant grifts that got passed as left-leaning activism in the past several years. There was literally no history in which anyone but Nancy Pelosi became the Speaker of the House. There was no avenue for any other...
And I think that part of why some of us are frustrated and continue the conversation perhaps longer than you would like is because there's absolutely no acknowledgement of how many lies are being spread. Oh, Kevin McCarthy can become Speaker of the House. Oh, it won't work unless you have an alternative speaker in question. You know, you can't make X, Y, and Z kind of asks. These kind of asks are inappropriate, but they wouldn't suggest alternative asks that I think I and a lot of other people would have been down for. So, I mean, do you see now, post what the Republicans have done, do you think it was a...
They got some really fucking bad video, dude. Like, legit, and I mean, like... It probably doesn't look too bad on your screen if you're on a phone, maybe. But, like... Yeah, I don't know.
So, do you agree that it was a legitimate plan and one that the left probably should have engaged in 2 years ago?
I think it would have been fine to do from the get-go. I do think there's a difference in how the right and the left handle these situations. The right does not care about its rabble-rousers, you know. The louder and more obnoxious you are as a conservative politician, the more your voters love it. They don't care.
This is true.
Whereas, of course, if AOC so much as coughs, over Nancy Pelosi, you're going to get like a 68-hour MSNBC, a runtime on how disrespectful she's being.
But didn't that happen to the Republicans too? Fox News was not on board with this project. There's a more ideological diversity over there, but the media was against them.
Though.
Sorry, I just realized I had the wrong microphone input this entire time, and you guys have probably been hearing my fan. I apologize. I fixed it.
The media was, the institution of the GOP was, but I feel like the populists on the right, I say populists here very loosely, they're not really populists, they're just more openly fascist. I feel like they're usually able to get more out of their party because the corporate GOP doesn't fear them as much, like I said before, because they don't really challenge capital. But you said earlier,
I don't think there's a difference. I think the point is that the people on the left would have rallied behind a just claim by people like AOC or other progressives. You got to pick the ask right. You got to make sure it's not this self-interested stuff, and that they're fighting for things that are very popular in the public, including among conservatives, things like $15 minimum wage and healthcare and yada yada yada.
Okay, so I just realized what they're talking about. They're talking about Force the Vote, which I am actually pretty unaware as to what the fuck it is. So what is Force the Vote all about from Quora? Probably a bad source to go. Let's go forcethevote.org. Fewer than 15% or 15 House representatives can determine if Medicare for All gets... Okay, so this is a Medicare for All thing. Withhold your vote for... Well, this is fucking outdated as shit. Fucking Pelosi isn't even in the speakership. Well, this doesn't even work because they just fucking... Oh, it's a Jimmy Dore thing. No! Jimmy Dore is an asshole, by the way, in case you didn't know. Representative Nancy Pelosi... No, she's not. She left! She left! You're wrong! Fix your fucking website.
I think there could have been good ass there. The main efficacy point that I made that really bugged me was when people were saying the FTV could have been used to do like a roll call vote on Medicare for all that everyone knows wouldn't have passed and would have been nothing more than an empty virtue
if
signal.
you don't like that
but
ask,
if it's
then
committee appointments, then I think
if you don't like that ask, you don't have to like that ask. But also, these aren't mutually exclusive. So let them do their roll call vote. Also, demand committee appointments. You could demand the earth, the wind, and the sky. It doesn't matter, because until you vote for, until those 4 women or whomever in the squad vote for Nancy Pelosi, her ass wasn't becoming Speaker of the House, and that was.
But she's not. Why are you talking about this after she dropped out? Like, ugh. I know the squad. I want to see if they expanded. That's 9 Democrats, dude. There's fucking, what, 5, 6, 7 of them are female. 4 women or whatever. Fuck off with your bullshit. Joy Gray, you are like way bigger. You've got 70K subscribers plus. You're huge. You're on like national media, aren't you? I spelled her name wrong. Apologies. But she was press secretary for Bernie's campaign, for fuck's sake. You should know this. I'm just some asshole on the internet who decides to stream once a month when my brain lets me.
An incredible amount of power to squander.
It does matter, because if they're too obnoxious, it ends up being an optical loss. But yes, I agree they could have done more with that.
No, but the point that we were making, though, is
also,
that even...
I saw this on Vosh's stream the other day. He played a bit of his audio from this. His audio is clean, and he sent it to them. So either they took a corrupted version of his audio from like the Zoom call or something, or they added in bad effects on top of Vosh's audio post the fact to make him look like he's got a worse setup than he actually does.
Even though there was an optical loss on the right. No, this is important.
And like you can even see this because it's the same setup, Vosh on Rising, right? See, we can just like go here.
Last
to the
month,
hill,
former
right?
kickboxer.
To you is this. These figures can be so kind of.
And this
aberrant.
is Brianna. So this is Brianna Joy Gray again, but this is her like professional outlet from the Hill.
The things that you're saying about how they don't seem to enjoy sex. There are all of these memes. Was having
You the same. No, you've just got very similar earrings you wear all the time. Okay.
sex with the woman gay. Like there's these weird perversions of what it means to even be masculine. Yeah.
Really, though?
Google it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, and his fucking audio is
performing
perfect.
certain sex with a woman is gross. It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Anyways, it's just I don't like people who fuck with people's stuff to make them look bad. If people look bad, they should be able to look bad on their own. You don't need to do like wacky sound effects or like weird crickets in the background to make them look bad.
Even though Fox News was not on board with this.
Not saying that Vosh looks bad, by the way.
The Republican Party wasn't on board with this. The people, conservatives, loved this. And you said that the conservative, they like the conservative voter loves rabble rouser more than Democratic voter. I don't think that that's true. I think that there would be a lot of excitement and energy among the.
Hold on. What do you mean? What do you mean, Brianna? The conservatives don't love rabble rousing. Oh, please. Seriously, the conservatives love rabble rousing so much, they stormed the Capitol on Jan 6th and tried to overthrow the government. Come on.
The people, if you saw someone actually fighting for you in Congress. Why do I believe that? Because that's been the entire repeal of Bernie Sanders in 2016.
But they voted for Biden, the least rabble-rousing human in
for the
history.
reasons that you just described. You know perfectly well why they voted for Biden.
Because Democrats are cocked, because they're small-brained bitch baby liberals who wouldn't get out of bed each morning if they weren't told to the previous day by MSNBC.
Who else were they supposed to vote for? Fauci? Bernie dropped.
Did you about to say Fauci? Bernie dropped because he lost the primary.
Out and immediately endorsed Biden. So Biden was
because he lost the primary.
Candidate.
Biden was the person that they sort of cajoled behind institutional support for in the primaries.
So
and he's been way better than any of us thought Biden would be.
Who are they supposed to rabble rouse behind?
Well,
There was nobody. That's my point. There's never anybody to rabble rouse.
But that's my point.
The
In the
squad won't do
primaries,
it. Democrats don't do it.
in the 2016 primaries, Donald Trump came in the, maverick or whatever, the underdog, and then he screamed and shouted and, insulted people all the way up to the top. Republicans love that stuff. It's gladiator sports to them. I respect it, frankly. It's better than what we have. Unfortunately, the average conservative is stronger emotionally than the average liberal when it comes to their propensity for watching politicians duke it out. So I genuinely think
that's the claim that I'm disagreeing with right there.
Really,
I think
you think liberals are better at that?
I think that there is an appetite for seeing people within the Democratic Party fight for the interests of working people among Democrats, just like there is among Republicans. However,
I wish too.
You never get to see it tested, and it's never really encouraged because the Democratic Party, you saw this with the Force the Vote moment last week. The Democratic Party prides itself on solidarity behind people as evil as Hakeem Jeffries, who spent the last 2 years trying to pass law, not like laws, but rules within the Democratic Party that would keep progressives out of office, raising money with Josh Gottheimer and Terry Sewell and a super PAC to try to keep more progressives from getting into Congress, blacklisting vendors who had the audacity to set up lights for or cater a progressive candidate trying to get into
they don't
Congress.
Give a shit. He's civil. He's got a smile.
Exactly. And despite him doing all of that, all of the people that he's attacked for the last 2 to 4 years or whenever this progressive thing started in 2018, clapped
5 years
for him, cheered him on as an amazing...
Because the other option is who we got! Because the other option that they had available to them was to let the fascists win. Hakeem Jeffries, Wikipedia. Let's do this. House of Representatives. So in 2012, looks like. Cool. In addition to the legislation above, June 26th, primary. Okay. So for 10 years, Jeffries has been in the House. All right, let's figure out what he's been doing. Bills, in addition to legislation mentioned above, on April 11th, 2013, introduced the Prison Ship Martyrs Monument Preservation Act. What is this? It looks like this is to keep the monument of the Prison Ship Martyrs movement. War Memorial? Okay. Secretary and just reading. Okay. The bill would direct the Secretary of Interior to study the suitability and feasibility of designing the part of the national park system. Okay. What's wrong with that? Okay, moving along. Fine, whatever. Who in private practice addressed intellectual property issues, which are fucked, by the way. Introduced to establish law school clinic certification program of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, which would establish the law school clinic certification program of the Law Patent Office to be available to accredited law schools for a 10-year period of enactment of the act. Okay, that's fine. Dude, anything that makes that easier to fucking understand, good luck. That is a shit show. I wanted to do that for a little while. I wanted to be a patent law office, like intellectual property law. And after like 6 months of studying about it, in my own while I worked at the law office, I wanted to kill myself. So we're good. Hold on one sec. Can I turn this to dark mode? No. I'll figure it out later. Don't worry about it. Okay. Democratic caucus chair. First impeachment, House Democrat leadership, caucus members, political positions, pushback against, okay, whatever. Oppose the Keystone Pipeline. Israel supporter. Ugh. Staten Island, Garner, da, 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 da. Okay, whatever, sure. Let's take her on his
Poet,
word.
as he
She's
did
a
that
shitty
corny
asshole.
acrostic,
Whatever.
took selfies championing how much they were all in line behind Hakeem Jeffries. And to me, that's the most dangerous thing. As a leftist right now, that is the exact kind of solidarity that I feel like is our job to be breaking up and attacking. And I don't think it...
Our job as leftists right now is to stand against fascism, because I spent the first hour and a half of this stream going over how fascism is on the rise and how we're very close to fucking full-on goddamn genocide in this country of trans people, gay people, non-binary people, genderqueer people, queer people. Just fuck it. I'll just use queer people. Queer people. People who aren't like the straight people are going to die if we keep going the way we're going. And it seems pretty bad to me that you want to stop solidarity behind like anything that would stop that. It's kind of like how when you're building a levee or a dike, like to stop floodwater from happening, right? And you're throwing sandbags up on top of this hill. You're throwing, and every person who doesn't like water is throwing sandbags up, and you're sitting there like, these sandbags are filled with sand that has Confederate blood on it. We got to use, and just you're knocking them down, like cutting the bags open. Kind of what it feels like to me. But continue. I want to see what you have to say.
Causes Republicans to win
Then
by
I'm
asking
fine with
the left to fight as hard as the right is going to fight.
If it doesn't in any way assist the Republicans, then I support it. I
But
will
you
say
didn't
I have some
support Force the
trepidation.
Vote.
No. I swear to God, my issue was mostly with how it was handled. Principally, the idea of extracting concessions or at least arguing over committee appointments, I'm okay with. The problem that I have is that there are a lot of people on the social media space who have very cynically used it as a flux point to attack the squad and define their entire identity by being the left, but not like that. And then they go on and spend like their entire lives, therefore, being the left who's anti this. No. We know
I don't
this
disagree.
is
I just have to say that I disagree, but go ahead. I don't think that's a fair criticism, but go ahead.
Okay, well, it's a tendency that many have claimed has happened. Anyway, I have an issue with how it's been used. I don't think the squad's perfect. I think they've made plenty of mistakes. I mean, God, that AOC, I don't know what kind of toenail screwing Pelosi was doing behind the scenes, but that vote on the Iron Dome shit, you remember that? Yeah.
I just did a radar on it, in fact.
Yeah,
I mean, I know that people only want to talk about my radars that they find to be fascistic or whatever, but I spend most of my time advocating for things like Medicare for all and wealth taxes and calling out. I said, in that radar, I explained that AOC could have taken that moment and come forward and exposed whatever arm twisting is going on behind the scenes, whatever kind of corporate, regressive, pernicious pressure that people like Nancy Pelosi are wielding.
Okay, I have a question, though, about that. Like, if they do that, say for a second that AOC comes out against the Democratic Party, essentially, in this thing, and kind of outs what is happening to get the sausage made, what happens next? Okay, everybody already knows. Every Democrat I know, every left-leaning person I know, knows that Democrats are already kind of shady. But hey, best we have. Any port in a storm when the storm is hurricane fascism, right? And what happens next? That's honestly what I'm trying to think. And I think what happens next is AOC loses her next re-election. Democrats push somebody who's against her. They throw out a whole bunch of like shit and they kind of Bernie her a bit. And then we're once again losing a genuine progressive person in the House to who knows what. And that might even, like, as unusual and unlikely as it is in like New York City to get a red, we might get a red. Because like the Republicans could fucking point at them and go, hey, look, they're fighting it amongst themselves. Get them. And like, I don't know, get like a guy who's, I don't know, just
behind the scenes. Instead, she continues to tacitly, I'm not saying it's evil in her heart, but she is in effect covering for Nancy Pelosi and the establishment when she does her bidding without simply outing what made her cry on the House floor that day.
No, I agree, especially because she's in such a safe district. You know, they would have to twist some major strings to have even a chance of getting her not
and AOC
reelected.
was, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Think about what they were doing. Like, we all know. It's not hidden, right?
I'm sure you saw the AOC clip on her Instagram the other day after the whole force the vote Republican thing, where she says she's criticizing Marjorie Taylor Greene, saying Marjorie Taylor Greene was in a, oh sorry, no, she's criticizing Lauren Boebert, saying Lauren Boebert was in a, almost lost her seat, and somehow like that is why it's good for me not to have done force the vote. But it's like, no, it's the opposite. Marjorie Taylor Greene almost lost her seat and was still willing to go up against the Republican establishment.
Yeah. But why did she say that? She clearly said that it was a bad idea for her to try and do that because, like, it could have been super bad for her, right?
For dumb stuff, to be clear, but was still willing to take on that risk when you're in a safe seat and aren't willing to stick your neck out for anything. I mean, that's the whole problem. Go ahead.
The main point that I'll front here, and something I'm really interested in seeing, is what would happen if you had a lefty, or at least a populist, in the Democratic Party who was openly antagonistic to the machinations within the party. You know,
that's what we want to see.
Bernie Sanders was a real nice guy. I love him. AOC, the rest of the squad, they're clearly keeping quiet to an extent. I'm sure, now this is just standard politics, right? Like, every political party to some extent has to twist people's arms behind the scenes. That's literally the point of a political party. It makes sense. But obviously, this is going beyond like standard, you know, like grouping people together, and it's gone into more extensive, like ideological constraints.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see what would happen, like what media cycle would come about from AOC just, I don't know, waking up on the wrong side of the bed and going, yeah, okay, fuck it, sure, fine, I'll go on Insta, we'll talk about this the whole day, you know, I'll throw a fuss. I'd be happy to see that. My current belief is that the average Democrat is a bitch baby who would respond poorly to any kind of disruption within the party, no matter how.
I love that take. I agree, actually. I think that, like, a lot of more centrist Democrats, if you start to rock the boat, are going to get pretty fucking angry.
How well handled by the left.
But I think that's true.
If that was challenged, if it was improved, if I could believe there was a positive outcome, because that's what I'm in it for. The left can try at whatever they want, you know, but if at the end of the day it doesn't do anything, I just don't care. If it turns out something good can come of it, or if it opens up a road to something good in the future, then I might be a little bit more...
Isn't it hard? Isn't there something kind of, in the aggregate, self-defeating? Isn't there something very limiting about saying, I'm only supportive of taking that kind of a political risk if I can guarantee that there's a positive outcome? Look, I completely get wanting to calculate that there's a likelihood maybe of a positive outcome, but this is, I think, where people like Jimmy Dore, I'm sorry, are coming from. I didn't say it. Jimmy didn't say it. AOC said that she'd rather be a one-term congressperson than abandon her ideals and stop fighting for the things that she thought was so important. AOC positioned herself as someone, and
when did she say that? I'm curious. When did she say that? Okay, whatever. Who knows? Anyway, my point is, I was wondering if she had said that early in her career, before she had actually spent time in Congress and realized what was going on, or something. Like, I don't know. Just
Alinsky says this all the time. He's there. He's part of the Justice Democrat effort that Brave New, whatever, that got them all elected. So if he says the point of why we fought for them to get into Congress was for them to do exactly that. So for them to not then be doing that, honestly, they should be doing that regardless of whether or not there's a positive outcome. I mean, they should obviously be trying for a positive outcome, not just randomly throwing rocks.
It'd help if they'd give it a shot, you know.
Right, but like, and this is so again. I don't necessarily. I don't necessarily obviously take the.
You're calling me a cuck again.
How am I doing that?
No, I was just because like you're not willing to take a risk. I do get it, by the way. I'd be much more open to experimentation if I wasn't so concerned about the I don't know, the death camps or whatever.
So, but okay, so
but broadly, I agree that it's you need to experiment to some extent because there's no safe way forward.
This is what is so frustrating. I feel like this is. I'll just speak for myself and not other members of my side of the left. I feel like I have gone out of my way as someone who was, especially 2 years ago, very timid in this space, not someone who has a long history in politics, willing to defer to the opinions of a lot of other people. I've spent 2 years having union organizers and journalists and elected officials and historians and novelists and musicians and old people, young people, everyone in the world on my show trying to vet these ideas. I'm not someone who's just like, oh, I think I know the right thing to do. I have instincts. I have good, what I think are above average analytical skills, but I don't know the right answers to things. But after talking to person after person after person, it's what it seems to me to be the problem is that there's a crisis on the left where nobody is willing to do anything unless it's a guaranteed success for some of the reasons that you articulated. So I have gone out of my way.
Okay. I get that. Let's hear it.
I believe to try to focus on opportunities that would not cost the broad left anything. That's why Force the Vote was so crucial. Because whereas sometimes you hear liberals arguing, you hear Democrats arguing, well, and AOC argued this in her little clip recently. Sorry, that was patronizing. AOC argued this in her clip recently. I'm sorry. I don't mean to. I'm sorry. She said, you know, Republicans, it's easy for them to hold stuff up because they don't want to get anything done anyway.
Yep,
but Democrats want the legislation to pass, so we can't force the, we can't hold folks hostage in the same way. Now, me, I'm the one who would abolish the FBI, so I would burn it. I would take the risk and burn it out. But even if you're not me, and I respect that most people aren't, Force the Vote. The only negative thing that was on the line, the only downside was that some broad named Nancy Pelosi doesn't get to be Speaker of the House. There were no children who weren't going to get their welfare checks. No one.
Well, if I may interrupt you, Brianna, we see what happened, actually. Nancy Pelosi is not Speaker of the House. The Democrats lost the Speaker of the House. And we now have a Republican-controlled House that is already pushing through really stupid fucking laws. Or trying to. What were the House bills 2023? Who said? The Pandemic is Over Act. I bet that's fucking great. Yeah, that's great. Love that. Anyway, I've heard about a couple of really bad ones. I'm blanking on what they are right now, though.
No one was going to go hungry. Nobody was going to be evicted. It was just Nancy Pelosi, one of the richest women in America, not getting to hold the gavel for the 15th year, however long she's been Speaker of the House.
Do you have a problem with women in power?
When they're named Nancy Pelosi, yes, 100%. So do you see what I mean? And my same thing with the 2020 stuff. It's like, fine. You don't want to vote third party? Fine. But at very least, can we be cool? Can we try to bluff a little bit and try to get a little something for our votes before you bend the knee for Joe Biden?
You did. That's called everything up to when the primaries happened. Right? That's the process, is it not? At the end of the presidential election, you start anew. Everyone's allowed to talk about whatever they want, and then 6 months before it, when the primary gets up, and we finish that, then everybody goes, okay, now there's two people, and you kind of file onto each side, and we scream at each other, and whatever side is loudest gets the seat. Sorry, Brianna, I didn't mean to pause like that. You look like you're about to sneeze.
Bernie dropped out in April. The election's in November. Can we wait till like July before we all pledge fidelity to Biden for the rest of our lives?
Look, we all have angles we approach this from. For me, and again, you know, I could go on about this, but I feel like the battle for this country's longevity in terms of its democratic institutions is being lost or is lost. And it's really just a matter of time. And I don't think the Democrats have the wherewithal or the lefties the strength to do anything sufficient to keep that from happening. And my hope is that whatever happens as a product of that, you know, you'll see this reciprocal blowback against a conservative ideology that would give us the venue for broader change. So, for example, and you know, I'm gonna not Godwin's law for once, you know. We've seen historically a resurgence in some Latin American countries after U.S.-backed fascist dictators were finally ousted or democratically removed, right? Chile,
Bolsonaro and Lula
has seen a pretty dramatic leftward shift over time.
Speaking of, Lula, Brazil, what's going on right now? What's going on in the for fuck's sake. I actually invasion of Brazil. Can't read anything on the fucking internet these days. Okay, whatever. I guess we don't get to learn about that today.
Lula has, you know, been a international hero in Brazil, albeit, you know, one with some challenges, but we love him anyway. Even right now with Ukraine, ever since the Euromaidan in 2014, the country has moved leftward, in large part because they wanted to distinguish themselves from Russia, which is a more conservative country. I think that the voters have a short memory and generally aren't that bright, which is unfortunately a product of our lacking political education. And they tend to react very reflexively to the pressures they see in their time. And my hope is that whatever happens next with the conservatives, the goal will be to milk that politically all the way home. And you use that to build a strong left base. What the Democrats didn't do in 2020, of course, was sufficiently work with the Jan 6 stuff, right? I mean, look at what Lula is doing over in Brazil. The Bolsonaristas, they invade the three houses of the federal government. Yep. Immediately. Whew, they are arrested.
Oh, is Vosh about to educate us as to what's happening?
Lula goes on TV. He talks about how they are terrorists, how they are cowards. He says the police were complicit in the insurrection attempt, which is phenomenal. And he says he's going to make an example of them. Fantastic stuff. I mean, this, I think, will really bolster his support in the long run. It's a strong response. Jan 6 happens, the Democrats limp-wristedly just sort of, I mean, what happened? Nothing has happened. Nothing has happened to anyone.
A few big wigs have gone to prison for a couple of years, and there's an investigation. But Trump's never going to get fucking punished for it, probably, because he's too old and too rich. None of the fucking people who fucking helped it along, Marjorie Taylor Greene, what's that one fucking guy? The guy, you know what I'm talking about. Anyways.
Part of this is a consequence, I think, of our, highly federated system, but also I think the Democrats...
they voted to increase police funding.
Right.
Yay! More police funding. Boy, oh boy, that's good.
We got more Capitol Police. There we go. God bless. We're safe. Forever.
Only... actually, this brings up an interesting point. And here's a thought. This gives me a thought to end on, because I don't want to listen to the rest of that. I'm kind of bored. I've had a thought. And what if we lived in a world where opportunities were available to us to shift and change our society as a whole? Big brain. We're free from the limits and constraints of our mortal realm. What if you de-armed not just abolished the police, but de-armed them, removed all forms of force from the police, and relegated the construct of our police system to civil infraction policing? Going around being a guy with just being a guy, maybe in a nice vest, nice reflective vest. Be like, hey, you parked here wrong. We're going to give you a ticket for that. That sort of thing. No longer do the police show up to places where medical personnel should be. The police are not going to be called to help deal with a drug addict. They're not going to be called into homeless camps. These should be handled by social services. And any time that there was a standoff or some sort of armed issue, we would call the state's local National Guard, because these are people who have been taught how to deal with firearms. They have gone through under immense training compared to the police in how to utilize their force properly. I have talked to many people who were veterans, some that have seen combat and some that have not, all of which agree that the police in our country shoot well before they would. And this indicates to me, I've also seen some data on this, that it is probably a better idea that we as a country do not allow police firearms. Maybe the change nationally from allowing civilians the ability to murder each other to allowing the local National Guard to being that level of force would be better for us in the long run. I don't know. It was just a thought. I kind of want opinions on it. Let me know what you think of in the comments for this video. But yeah, I've been streaming for a couple of hours. Hopefully I'll be back soon. Again, my mental health has just been atrocious since October and pretty much ever. I'm doing my best to keep myself healthy and happy. And I'd like to keep doing this. I really do enjoy these streams. I know today was a little disjointed and whatnot, but hopefully I'll see you guys soon. If not, have a good day. Catch you next month.